So I am here with a very special snake. This is Metamora, my green tree python, and this is the first time I'm ever handling her with my hands, so this is pretty exciting. She's doing wonderful, as you can see. One thing I'd like to bring up is obviously this snake is not green. Green tree pythons as babies are red or yellow, so that is why she is red. So green tree pythons are known for being like super aggressive and mean, and obviously, as you can see, the snake is doing a great job. Usually once you get them out, they're pretty chill, so this is my first time actually gaining the courage to do it, and she's doing amazing. She's just being curious and looking around. As long as they feel supported and safe, there shouldn't be a problem. So green tree pythons are definitely not for beginners. This is a very difficult snake to take care of just because they require a very specific humidity and temperature, and they're very, very delicate, especially as babies because they're so small and their tail is just incredibly tiny, and you just have to be very, very careful with this species. Obviously, as a baby, she's very, very small. As an adult, they do get to be 4 to 6 feet, which is very large for a snake that's kind of difficult to handle, so that's something to keep in mind. And they do require a larger enclosure as they get bigger. As a baby, you really aren't going to need a large enclosure. You're actually going to want a smaller enclosure for a baby. So right now she's in a temporary plastic little container, and as she grows, she will get bumped up. I'm not sure if you can tell right now, but she actually has this yellow spot on her head, and she's starting to change colors a little bit, so it's pretty cool. I can't wait to see her grow and develop and change color over time because the green is just so vibrant and so beautiful. So when keeping one of these guys, as I mentioned earlier, you do want to keep them in a smaller enclosure as they're babies. When they get larger, you're going to need something so they can sprawl out. They are arboreal, so you're going to want to put something like a perch or branches for these guys. I have a thicker branch right now for her that I need to switch out and get her a smaller one. Babies do like really thin branches, so that's something to keep in mind. Another thing with these guys, as they get larger, a lot of people think that because they are arboreal, you need something with as much height as possible. And with these snakes, actually, they will just go to the highest perch no matter what. So it's also important to give them a lot of horizontal space because they like to move from side to side. So the basking area for these guys, you want a hot spot of 86 to 88 degrees, and you want that to be spot on. And as a baby right now, I'm using a heating pad for Metamora, but as they get older, you can use a heat bulb for them instead, and that is because you do want a viewing snake. These are definitely more of a viewing snake. They're not a snake for you to be handling very much. They're just gorgeous, and they're just pretty much to look at. So you're going to want like a really big, beautiful enclosure to observe them from. So you're going to want a heat bulb when they get older, and you do want it to be 86 to 88 degrees. You do not need to use UVB for these guys whatsoever. It's not necessary. If you do want to do it, you can do a very low wattage of UVB. Again, that's totally up to you. Ambient temperature, you want it to be around like 75 to 78 degrees. You don't want it to ever go below 70 degrees. They can handle a drop at nighttime, a little cooling off period, but again, you never want to go below 70 degrees because that's too cold for them. As for humidity, you want a 40 to 70% range of humidity for these guys. And you do want to make sure that you're not just keeping it overly moist 24/7. You do want a dry period during the day. So I usually just keep an eye on it. I mainly mist at nighttime because these guys, you do want to provide a water bowl. However, they are known to not drink from the water bowl whatsoever. So you do want to make sure that you're just misting their enclosure, and then similar to geckos and other reptiles that are nocturnal, they'll be licking up that water, and that's how they hydrate themselves at nighttime. When it comes to the substrate, it's totally up to you. There's so many different things you can use. I personally am just using paper towel for now, and it works very fine, very easy to clean. She's very small, and I don't have much going on in her enclosure for now. I'm gonna deck it out for sure when she gets big because I want a really nice viewing enclosure. But for now, it's just paper towel, and everything is just very simple. So when it comes to feeding green tree pythons, as a baby, you should feed them every 5 to 7 days. A good rule of thumb is basically to feed them after they poop and shed. Then they're usually ready for their next meal. So that's what I've been doing with Metamora, and that's typically just once a week. As they get older, you won't have to feed them as often. They are very slim snakes. You don't want to be overfeeding them. They have a slower metabolism, so you should be feeding them every 10 to 14 days when they're adults. So with all that said, that's pretty much it for green tree pythons. Again, I would not recommend these for beginners. I don't think that they're a very mean snake. A lot of people say that they are. It's always just because they are arboreal and they are just ready to hunt and ready to defend, so they're always in that striking position. So it can be a little tricky getting them out of their enclosure, but typically once they're out and you just become their tree, they're totally chill and they are not mean whatsoever. They're just doing their own instincts. That's what all snakes do. They aren't mean, they aren't out to get you, and that's exactly how this little girl is too. So I hope that this video was helpful, and I hope that it got you a little bit interested in green tree pythons just because they're just so gorgeous. I mean, I'm amazed that I have one. My boyfriend is the one that got her, and I'm just in love with her. She's gorgeous, and I can't stop staring at her. So yeah, they're just amazing snakes, and they're just really, really cool. So I hope you guys like Metamora. So leave a comment, let me know what you think, and have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for watching. So right now, this is what I'm using for Metamora. It's just a little plastic tub. It's about 1 foot long and maybe, I don't know, maybe that's 1 foot. I really don't know my measurements whatsoever, but this is temporary because she's very small. She has a water bowl right there, and then she's basking over here. And I actually want to get a smaller pole for her because this one's really thick and she's still very small. So we're going to be upgrading her and switching some things around. And she's on paper towel and her heat pad is right over there.